It's a waiver wire Wednesday, and today we're looking at everybody. We're going deep at quarterback, tight end, wide receiver, and running back like we do on every Wednesday. We look at the waiver wire on Tuesday. We went deep on running backs and wide receivers, going ham on those positional groups. And then before that, we did a quick look at the waiver wire. Every day throughout the week, we look at the waiver wire so you can find those diamonds in the rough. That's why you need to click that subscribe button right now, because we're going to help you find those players to help you win your week, win your league, and everything else. We do deep dives, and on top of that, we use videos to also help you set your lineups. Click that button. Stop missing out. But the waiver wire isn't really much different compared to previous weeks. Running backs aren't getting injured. We're not really seeing many wide receivers emerging. We're pretty much playing musical chairs with some of the guys off the waiver wire. So honestly, when it comes to the waiver wire, wide receivers and running backs, pick up the handcuff running back you like the best, whoever you like the best. With the wide receivers, look at the matchups, look at their future matchups, pick up the players you like the best. Nobody really to pick up to help you in the now outside of shotgun lottery wide receivers with the targets, but Anthony Richardson's back, and he got released back to the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. If he's there, you got the rushing production. You got that rushing floor. He could revert back to what we saw earlier in the season, or maybe he got his head on straight after being benched. Whatever happens, you got the rushing floor, and he's okay to have as your QB2. Now, you may not want that. You may want to stash a running back or wide receiver, even though we're not seeing many of the backups get opportunities right now due to the lack of injuries, which is a good thing from a humanity standpoint. But if you want a QB2, you feel like you need it to get through the playoffs, or you want that, Anthony Richardson, if he's on the waiver wire, you're looking at fantasy QB1, even if he's not playing good, like a top-tier quarterback because of the rushing upside. And if it's not going out so well, you can always just dump him. You may not trust it, but if you got a stud quarterback anyway, it's okay. If you're hurting at quarterback, here's your shot. Here's your shot to get back in it. This might be the piece that gets you over the hump. There's a little bit of gamble due to the uncertainty from what we saw earlier in the season, but we do have the rushing floor with Anthony Richardson, which could kick in. Will Dissly, we've been calling him out these last few weeks because he's been getting work, especially the last 2 weeks. 6 targets. 2 weeks prior, week 8, 7 targets, then 11 targets before that. We're running a lot of routes. We're out there a good bit. 55.8% route participation rate, though, but we're in the slot almost half our reps. That's a good thing for the tight end spot. Look at the ADOT from last week at 10.2. So we're running deep routes, which is rare at the tight end position. That is rare, and we're getting volume. And the Chargers are looking his way. Herbert's looking his way. We're going to be in some matchups where they're going to have to throw the football. He's a good tight end to throw a dart throw at on any given week if you're really hurting or you're streaming tight ends. Jonathan Brooks is going to be back. We've been saying this all along. He's going to be getting some opportunity when he's back. It's probably be very minimal during his first game back because he's supposed to be getting touches this week. And it'll probably ramp up a little bit. Nobody's expecting him to steal Chuba Hubbard's role, but there's this guy named Miles Sanders. And I believe most of you guys watching, when you think of Miles Sanders, you don't think all-star. Also, he's banged up. Probably good to go sooner than later. I'll just say that because I don't know for sure. I'm not hanging out with him. But he's averaging 3.7 yards per carry, but he's running 11 to 12 routes per game. He's in on like 30% of the opportunities. He's getting volume, and if that volume goes to Jonathan Brooks, and Jonathan Brooks hits like he did at Texas with that efficiency, that could give you something in fantasy. Maybe not to a Chuba Hubbard level, but maybe something to where you can play the matchups with, or as a flex, or just a guy on your bench to prevent that other team in your league that really needs it from getting those points in their lineup. Quentin Johnston has been stellar. 3 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Looking good, getting targets. We're out there on 86% of the routes. 37 routes ran, 8 targets. We're getting good volume. 5, 2, and 8 in the last 3 games when it comes to targets. The air yards downfield, he's a contested catch magician, and he'll find a way to find where the coverage is breaking because he's capitalized on broken coverage a few times this year. He's a dependable wide receiver, but he is very up and down fantasy football wise, due to the nature of the offense. This offense will do what it needs to do to win the game, and sometimes it's a rushing attack, sometimes it's slowing down the pace, sometimes it's slowing down the passing attempts. Just it is what it is. But right now, things are cooking, and there's not much at the waiver wire with this much upside, really, that's as dependable as a Quentin Johnston. JT Sanders, if you're really hurting at tight end, if you're streaming tight end, watch the matchups with him. He's going to have some interesting matchups in the back end of the season, but the work rate is there for him. 7 targets, 6 targets, then 1, 5, 2. We're getting volume, we're getting opportunity, and at the tight end spot for a rookie, that's a good sign. That's a very good sign. The work rate's there. Maybe not top tier, not Cade Otton or anything like that you plucked off the waiver wire earlier. However, if things are dank and you're looking for something, here you go. Here's an option for you. Bo Nix really should be rostered in all leagues. However, I do not advocate 1 QB leagues that you have 2 quarterbacks. So honestly, probably shouldn't, but should be a guy you're looking at as a pickup off the waiver wire every week. He's getting you a little bit of a rushing floor off and on throughout the season. On top of that, the passing attempts has ramped up. We're over 30 in the last 4 games. That is solid for a rookie quarterback. Go watch him play. Go watch him play. He's starting to get a good feel of the NFL, the position at the NFL level, and he's looking good. We said this in training camp. I was timid going into training camp, but I knew that if he beat out those gatekeeper quarterbacks, that we were leading into something here in Denver. And I also mentioned that this is not going to be a slouch of a team as what the media was saying, and I don't know how I was right on that, but Bo Nix has been looking good. Bo Nix has been looking good this year. He's also spreading the ball around to different wide receivers, which is another good indicator that we got a rookie here that's ramping up. Jalen Wright, handcuff running back, tons of upside, 4.3 speed, can house it on any given play, anywhere on the field. That is what we're seeing here. On the flip side, a running back needs to get Ertz. We need the Dolphins just explore him out over the last few weeks of the season. There's risk there, but there's really no risk with the last spot on your roster. That being said, you may want to handcuff him. Christian Watson here is an upside wide receiver that can go off or go nuclear on any given week. He could also give you absolutely nothing on any given week. That's the type of wide receiver he is. He's with the Packers. They have a carousel effect where any wide receiver in the offense could blow up on any given Sunday, and it's a good gamble to make if you're hurting. What I mean by hurting is you're just stressing about that last flex spot. You got Christian Watson there or that other upside wide receiver, and you just put them in, just hoping that they bring in one of those deep balls. That's what Christian Watson is. If you don't like that, don't get it. If you like that, if you need that, go get it. Hunter Henry's been getting volume with Drake Maye. He's good with Drake Maye. Look at the targets here. 9, 6, 8, 4, 9. That's volume. That's something that needs to be rostered. That's going to be steady. Might be up and down for fantasy football due to shorter air yards, shorter targets. That's going to be up and down with all tight ends, unless you're like a Brock Bowers. But that's something to look at. If you're hurting at the tight end spot, you're looking for somebody to pick up, you're getting volume here with Drake Maye. And Drake Maye's been cooking a little bit. It's been up and down, but we're looking good. We're getting better. We're ramping up. We're getting a good amount of passing attempts, too. They're allowing him to cook. Look at this. 37, 41, 25, 40. We're getting volume there. That's a good thing. A little bit of rushing production, too, sprinkled in. Drake Maye's got a little bit of that Konami code. He got 95 rushing yards in week 9. So he's going to help you out. He's going to bail you out. Quarterback scoring is different from league to league, but he's going to be okay. He's an okay QB2 to play the matchups with. That's something to look forward to with Drake Maye. Ray Davis, another back-end handcuff running back here. However, we know what we're getting when James Cook is out. We know we're going to get a guy that's going to be featured. He's going to get some work in the passing game. He's going to get those runs up the gut. He's dependable with the ball in his hands. You know what you're going to get. He's a safe rookie handcuff. He's safe. Like, you know he's not going to be messed with because he's been dependable when it comes to at least some touches every game. And on top of that, with him being back there, there are some games where he's giving you some fantasy production. So if you got to use him in a pinch, you got Ray Davis to use. I like him as a handcuff, one of my favorites. Ricky Pearsall, rookie wide receiver, first-round pick, very sudden mover when it comes to getting in and out of his breaks. A guy that's been developing, getting better throughout the course of his collegiate career on to now. And he ran on 63.9% of the routes. Juwan Jennings is the wide receiver you want out of here. However, he should be rostered. Pearsall has probably been picked up, released back, picked up, released back. However, 2 out of his last 4 games, he's hit for you. So he's probably going to give you like a 50-50 hit rate for the rest of the season. That's probably the trend that seems very likely out of Ricky Pearsall. Zach Ertz has been getting volume all season long. It's been up and down when it comes to fantasy production, but he's been getting you volume all season long and has been okay. If you can score the touchdown, if you can break loose on the play, that is something you're gambling with at the tight end spot. But really, most tight ends, that's the way it is. But he's a tight end that's getting volume. It's semi-consistent here. Something to get off the waiver wire here. Jameis Winston. He's just always YOLO. He just doesn't care. He'll sling it. I saw one pass attempt where it got batted away. Should have made it. But he's that type of quarterback. It's like, well, I'm just going to try and fit that in there. It does not make sense to make that decision. But he's like, let's just try it. Let's just try it anyways. And he'll go deep downfield with it. That's great for fantasy production until the interceptions rack up, and that will happen on some games. But in other games, they might be in position where he's just racking up yards, even if he does throw interceptions, because he's just going YOLO with it and slinging it downfield. He's a quarterback with some cojones that could bail you out in the right matchups, in the right game scripts, and that is really dependent on what's going on in the game and what he's doing in the game. Blake Corum, another handcuff running back here. Kyron Williams is getting a ton of work. If he goes down, a lot of that work, not all that work, and it will be reduced to some degree because that work will go to the wide receivers in the passing game. Blake Corum will get some of it, and he will be a trendy pickup off the waiver wire. You all will fight for him. You all will spend all your fab for him. You all will try and get him. If you want him, go get him. If I have Kyron Williams, I would already have him. Elijah Moore, we're banged up. Watch the practice reports. It's Wednesday. That's when the injury reports from the practices will start to come out, start rolling, start to be more actionable and get more actionable throughout the week. 8 targets. The last few games, 6, 12, 9, 8 targets. However, the disclaimer on him is the schedule. Pittsburgh, on the road to Denver, on the road to Pittsburgh, then Kansas City. How I would play that is if I look at Elijah Moore and the rest of my wide receivers and I can start him despite that schedule, or at least think about it, then I want him, I'll have him, I'll keep him. If I look at that schedule, I look at the rest of my wide receivers, I'm like, there's no way he's touching my lineups. I can't do it. I'm blessed. I got some good wide receivers to lean on. Then I'm going to sell him or stay away. That is the strategy here. Even if he plays well, you're not starting him in that scenario. So think about that way. Think about things and strategy, not black and white with these players. Player good, player bad. Because there's other players in your lineup, other decisions you got to make, and how things roll off the tongue when you look at it as a Monday morning quarterback, looking at the points that happened, isn't really subjective to the situation at hand when you're looking at these players. Sunday morning, Saturday night, Friday, waiver wire time. Just think of things in terms of strategy. Don't be scared of the results. Always work on the process. Cam Akers, backup, handcuff, running back, tons of upside in a good offense. Aaron Jones got kind of nicked up 2 weeks ago, came back in. He's getting some workload. Might be a running back you want. Hit rate-wise in fantasy football, we saw it with the Texans. Probably will hit every other game, once every 3 games in fantasy football for you. Some of you guys be like, why would I pick that up? Why would I want that? Some other people who are rolling into the playoffs or would like another running back would be like, I could stash that. I could be happy with that. His best game with the Texans as a starter, he scored 12 PPR fantasy points. And then the other ones, I think he got 9 and then like an 8 spot or something like that. Cam Akers will probably be volatile like that, but could be that home run swing in the right matchup for you. Something to look at if something happens to Aaron Jones. Alec Pierce, deep threat city, running a good amount of routes right now. 84.4% route participation rate. He's always getting deep targets. So the thing about Alec Pierce, another Christian Watson, and he is on the position here where if you just throw him in your lineup and you get lucky and he brings in that deep target that week, you're blowing up. And if your good players do what they're supposed to do, you're probably going to win your week. Trey Benson. Just another handcuffed running back with upside. James Conner's probably not going to get hurt. However, if he does, you got the insurance policy here. Him and Emari Demercado. Like I say, I always bring him up too because they'll probably split the work about 50-50, 60-40. Both of them have upside in this offense. I like them both. Demercado maybe a little bit more because he'll be cheaper off the fab if you got to pay up for him. Trey Benson will be more expensive. Everybody will be beating the table for him. That being said, if you want to go cheaper, Emari Demercado. If you want to shoot for that upside with that 4.3 speed, round 3 pick, everything else, because he is getting workload here, 18 carries in his last 2 games, then you're probably going to look at Trey Benson. A lot of people are looking at Trey Benson, but always look at Emari Demercado too. MVS, deep threat city. He's getting deep balls. We're with the right quarterback here. It pushes it downfield. He's going to be a gamble, just like Christian Watson, just like Alec Pierce. That's what I see. You're either going to get it all or you're going to get nothing for the rest of the season. And really, those deep balls are sometimes hard to bring in. You're only going to get a couple of them a game. 3, 4, 5-ish max. You're going to only get a couple of those a game. You bring one in, then we're going to be cooking. You get overshot, not even your fault. Or undershot, not even your fault. Not going to cook. That is how it's going to look like. We got some favorable matchups. You might want to play with it in your lineups. Jalen Warren, if you were looking to draft him back in August, he's there in waivers in a lot of leagues. He's getting some work. He's getting some touches. He's actually a guy you may want to think about picking up. Something happens to Najee Harris. He's going to be getting a lot of work, and the Steelers team's moving football. They use their running backs. He's shown to be productive earlier in his career. Jalen Warren's actually a trendy, safe pickup. If you're looking for a veteran to get off the waiver wire, Mike Williams. I look for him to start running more routes in his offense, getting more snaps. He went from 12% snap rate to 32%. Look for him to get around 40 to 50% and look for that to incrementally increase throughout the weeks along with the routes. And his targets are going to be deep downfield and in the red zone. So he's going to be a money play up and down, just like Alec Pierce and Christian Watson. Just like those 2 wide receivers, just like MVS. He's going to have those up games and he's going to have those down games. And you can play the matchups with him. So just because a player's on the waiver wire doesn't mean they're not on your team. They are still on your team because Sunday morning you can pick them up if you get that gut reaction. So just because you don't pick up Mike Williams right here, right now, doesn't mean he's not on your team. Consider the whole waiver wire on your team as just a pool of randoms to pick up, and just be aware of what's there, what they can do, what likelihood and how they could score fantasy points. And when it's Sunday morning, you get hit with a random injury, this, that, you know about the player. We also talk about strategy and how to play the game to help you out. That's why you need to click that subscribe button right now. It's more than just results. Roschon Johnson, we got some work last week. You kind of want to see that through if it happens for more games. That might be more situational. However, the Bears are trying to switch things up here. DeAndre Swift's still the guy. If DeAndre Swift goes down, everybody's going to want Roschon Johnson to some degree. Not as much as some of the other top-tier handcuffs, but he does get a lot of work in the passing game. For a handcuffed running back, that's behind a running back that gets a lot of work in the passing game. So they're going to use him in the passing game. If something happens to DeAndre Swift, he's not going to be just a grinder at 225 pounds up the gut. He will get work in the passing game. He will get work up the gut. He's also trendy where he can score once every 5 games for you in fantasy football. Is something you may not want to use as a handcuff plus, but if you're interested, there you go. There's other handcuffs I like. You can kind of tell from all the videos. But again, he's there. He's available. Jalen McMillan, the schedule's opening up. Mike Evans will be back sooner than later. And with Mike Evans back, I got to check the practice reports to actually win. But a few weeks ago, is trending to around this time area. Jalen McMillan is coming back from that injury or coming back from the bye week, and we're running a lot of routes. We're up there 80, 90% route participation rate. He's the guy that's going to give you more chances, more opportunities. Maybe not the guy that's going to score enough for you in fantasy, but the schedule's going to be opening up soon. We got the Carolina Panthers twice. We got the Giants. We got some good matchups here. Ameer Abdullah, because we got some injuries at the running back position here, but he's Ameer Abdullah. But if you got to pick up a running back that's seeing more opportunity, that could do something for you, Ameer Abdullah could be that dude for you. We're watching Alexander Madison this week. We're watching Zeus. We're watching these backs to see what this backfield will look like. Kayshon, Boutte, and the gang. in the game. Demario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, pick your poison. And the reason why I say that, because there's a reason with all these 3 wide receivers to pick one up. Kendrick Bourne scored the fantasy points last week. Demario Douglas got the targets. Kayshon Boutte ran on almost 100% of routes and got targets. All 3 of these guys, you got a reason to why you should be interested in them. Drake Maye's good. He's spreading the ball around. We got a little bit of the carousel effect. Any one of these 3 wide receivers can get it on any given Sunday. You just kind of got to pick your poison. Like, who should I pick between these 3 wide receivers, Bruce? I don't really know. I just know all 3 of them can get it. I know Kayshon Boutte is running more routes than the other 2. I know Demario Douglas, when he's on the field, he's kind of Drake Maye's Josh Downs, where he's getting those short targets. He's dependable and at least racking up targets. Kendrick Bourne running about 53% of the routes, if I remember right. He's out there on half the routes, half the time, but he is getting deeper targets. He's a playmaker. It's just really how the game script goes and what Drake Maye's thinking on that play. Tank Bigsby, if he's back, we're watching the practice reports. He's a guy that'll hit on you once every 2-3 games. 40 fantasy points. He's going to get you touches. He's going to get you opportunities. Something you could look at for your rosters. A lot of people picked him up earlier in the season, released him, picked him up, released him. Tank Bigsby, it's going to give you some upside. The Jaguars offense is the Jaguars offense. We know this. Rashod Bateman's a deep ball dandy. He gets splashed on any given Sunday. We're running a lot of routes. We're getting a lot of deep routes and deep targets downfield. Those are harder to bring in. However, we've been scoring at an alright clip this year. Week 5, good. Week 6, okay. Week 7, good. Down on Week 8. Down on Week 9. Good on Week 10. Down on Week 11. Now we're rolling into Week 12 against the Chargers. If you bring in that deep ball, you're going to hit it. If you don't, you're not. That is how Rashod Bateman is. But those are the players we're looking to get off the waiver wire right now. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.